Some of the areas that we're going to be covering are company strategy, workforce, of course, we've talked a lot about. We've got HR, benefits, and compensation. There's a number of operational areas that we will also cover, from supply chain, legal. Talking with the CEO and executive team is a key point of understanding the direction of the organization. And obviously, information technology and some of the support areas are critical as well. So it's really a thorough assessment, and by looking at all of these areas, we can help to direct you more, we can direct you and focus attention on areas that we think could support your business. I asked 2 of our board members why having a solid understanding, why looking at the entire business through this holistic needs approach would be beneficial to them. So I'd like to ask Brian to join and share some of his thoughts. Brian, if you can just tell us a little bit more about your background first, and then a little bit maybe about how you approach your needs assessment with your clients.
Sure. So I'm a financial advisor with Infinex Financial Group and VP with Ion Investments. The way that I like to approach any type of needs assessment or financial conversation is really getting a good understanding of the business itself and the business owners. Specifically when it comes to different types of compensation plans that they have for their employees, or potentially like key employees, or the executive level. It's really important to understand the company's philosophy around compensation. As you know, right now in today's environment, it is a very competitive world when we're trying to attract, really good employees or retain those quality employees that are bringing value to the company. So it's really important for us when we're doing a needs assessment to really understand your philosophy in terms of compensation for those employees. So some ways that we would like to review the compensation is really doing some type of assessment, making sure that you have the right types of plans in place, whether it's 401k, 457, deferred compensation plans, different pension plans or cash balance plans, and make sure that those benefits are going to be in the same line with other competitors that are out there. Again, if you're trying to retain your employees or bring on new employees, you want to make sure that you're at least giving them some type of benefits that are in line with the other competitors in the industry. And so as an advisor, what I do is make sure that we're providing those cost-effective, low-fee plans for your employees and staff, but then also provide education. And it's really cool. There's a lot of studies out there that show if your employees feel comfortable on a financial level, if they feel some type of financial security, their production levels actually increase. And so it's my job as an advisor to really educate your employees, whether it's anything investment related, retirement related, insurance, banking, and help them understand and position their financial assets in a way where they feel comfortable for the future, so that they can stay fully focused on what their production goals should be within the work. So that's just one way we really like to bring in a holistic approach when we're doing these needs assessments. And I know that Beth has. I think
that, excuse me, I think one of the things that you mentioned that I want to just highlight is this opportunity. So someone could think that they're talking just about a 401k plan, but this study that you brought up that connects the education and education literacy to retention also speaks to how you can nurture and really maintain your staff over the long haul. So kind of feeding back to your employees.
Yeah, without a doubt, their loyalty just maximizes when they see that their employer is providing some type of plan, and whether it's just a basic 401k plan, or they're adding an additional benefit on there, whether it's a matching program or some other type of compensation. There's a lot of different plans out there. When an employer does that, it really makes the employees loyal because they feel like, you know, my boss here, they're really trying to take care of us. They're really thinking about us in the long term, not just a short term, you know, have me go in, do my job and get paid my hourly rate. They're looking out for me for over the long term, and it really makes a solid difference.
And then I would imagine too, sometimes you go in and you have a needs assessment and the company is doing everything fine, and maybe you don't have recommendations. And so I think that that's part of what we are also talking about in this holistic approach, right, with CTMRG. You may not need every service that we as a team offer. We just want to ensure that you are firing on all those cylinders prior to us giving you an overall assessment.
Correct. And honestly, we give a nice stamp of approval if the employer is doing a great job at providing benefits for their employees, taking care of them. They really have a good retention rate with their employees. We give them that nice stamp of approval. Great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you have any questions in the future, obviously reach out to us if you need. But we look for other ways that we can build value within your company, not just through like a retirement plan, but maybe through some other depreciation tactics or their marketing tactics and other areas as well. So yeah, it's not just one area of the business. We're really looking at a holistic approach.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate you coming on and being in front of the camera this time.
No problem. My
I'd like to ask Beth to join the conversation now. Brian gave us a great segue in talking about the marketing component. And many people can say, why do you need to look at the entire business? I just want you to create a marketing plan. So Beth, maybe you can elaborate on that for us.
Sure, thanks, Jen. I've actually been doing kind of an expanded needs assessment for a few years now, because in order to create a communication plan, you kind of have to look at it from the whole company standpoint. So, and honestly, at this point, web savvy marketers, 50% of the communication we do is for recruitment, and the other 50% is for business development. You know, 10 years ago, it was all business development, but now it's shifted. And as that messaging, that communication plan is critical, but you have to understand what's going on in the entire company. So I can do something for business development, and the messaging may be slightly different than it is for recruitment. And that might be different messaging than the leadership team needs to talk to the entire company, but they all have to tie together. You know, you can't have completely different views of what the company, who the company is. So it's really critical to create that communication plan for the entire company. And those plans that marketing plan has to align with your business, and it has to align with your capacity. I always say that there's only one thing worse than having a product and no customers, and that's customers and no product. And you know, it's critical to understand capacity and where is it, and where do you want to grow? You know, I mean, what products have the highest profit margin? Which industries are the best area for growth? So it's beyond just I'm going to make a pretty ad. You know, it's not as effective. You need to really understand wholly what's going on in the company overall to create a communication plan that will benefit all areas of the business.
Yeah, I think that's probably influenced a little by all of the social media that we see, right? We see a lot of Instagram posts, Facebook, Twitter, a lot of pretty images. But behind each of those pretty images, right, is having a strategy of what they're talking to, what you're hoping to accomplish. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've got to have a goal in mind, or a vision of what you want people to think when they see your company's name, whether it be a potential customer or a potential employee. You know, what do you want that kind of connection to be?
Great. Thank you. So moving on, I think hearing from Beth and Brian really speaks to the benefits that are geared to these small to mid-sized manufacturers. The CTMRG board members have all specifically worked within the manufacturing industry. Each of us, having also worked in larger corporations, we're experts in identifying what I'll refer to as sticky red tape that oftentimes just naturally evolves in an organization and can ultimately bog down a process. With that said, CTMRG can really provide this large firm consulting expertise without these large firm consulting fees. There's just not the same overhead that you would find in a larger organization, which also makes us very versatile and nimble. As part of my discussion with Brian, you heard that CTMRG is not looking to create problems. We're really looking to cast a wide net so we can get a holistic view of the organization. And with your organization's executive insight, we can help you narrow the focus to provide guidance on the most impactful returns for your investment. And of course, we're results oriented. So by signing up with a needs assessment or investing in a needs assessment with Connecticut Manufacturers Group, you would receive a written summary outlining your strengths, and we would assign a dedicated CTMRG board member to lead the overall assessment process. So while you would have exposure to all of the folks on our board, you would have one point of contact throughout your journey. And then together, key leaders from the company will be identified to participate in the assessment by providing information and insight into your company's history, best practices, and the functionality within each of their given disciplines. I would like to guide you to visit CTMRG, where you can find more information about our needs assessment. And I encourage you to reach out with any questions that you might have or comment on some of your interests going forward. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Ron at this point.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I don't know if you're going to stay on a bit, but this was just a great part of the presentation, certainly for me to hear, because I just got a little bit more educated about some of the vast resources. And, you know, when you look at these small companies, many times, I think you kind of alluded to it, these can be really unaffordable type of things because they can be very expensive and maybe only available to the large companies. And CTMRG has kind of leveraged all these resources together and put them together in a kind of a nice platform where companies can access them. So really a huge benefit to the small manufacturers. And you know, some of the things that I kind of recognize, I was taking a few notes on here, but the holistic approach that Brian mentioned, obviously very, very important. And you know, we never expected COVID, and frankly, we're still dealing with COVID. So if you didn't think you needed a needs assessment, you know, you never know. I mean, everyone's organization just got affected and impacted over the last year. So it's probably a great time to be looking at your operation, not just really deep internally with processes, but you know, your customers, you know, the general market, all that. And Beth talked about the marketing side of it. So there's really a lot to it, you know, and I think you guys, Jennifer, it sounded like you said you've got a really kind of a neat, simplified way of going in and talking to manufacturers, something they'll understand and can really get some value out of. So, you know, I don't know if there's anything you have to say about my comment.
Yeah, thank you for all of that feedback. I think that, you know, all of us having worked in bigger corporations, some of us being smaller business owners ourselves, we can appreciate the versatility of having to do it all as well as be nimble. And clearly that would be something that we could share with other smaller mid-sized organizations, really help them maximize their investments. And to your point about COVID and the changing landscape, certainly a needs assessment is something that doesn't necessarily need to be done every year, but as you are looking to build your company's 5-year, 3-year, 5-year strategy, it's good to have an outside expert opinion come in because you see the landscape through a different lens and oftentimes brings creative solutions that we just, you know, start to lose sight of over time when we are there every day. And that's natural, right? That's not a criticism for anybody. That's just what happens to all of us as we focus on our day-to-day activities. So
these businesses, I mean, they're trying to run their business. They've got
right.
parts or product to get out the door, and you know, it's about, we're all about continuous improvement. All of us have to continually improve our organizations. And you mentioned the strategic planning, and, you know, how do you plan appropriately without having that needs assessment? And, you know, bringing somebody in the outside is vital, because you've got to kind of see that forest through the trees. And you can't do that when every day you're coming in and you're just putting your head down saying, I've got to get product out the door by the end of the day. I've got to be just in time. I've got to meet my price targets. I've got to keep a happy workforce, and you got to keep the lights on in general, let's just say,
Yes.
and the planning. And it's hard to wear that many hats. So it's a great opportunity to bring in, you know, a trusted group of advisors with some great experience. So that certainly goes a long way. You know, in the ongoing collaboration, I know we'll all have, what I think is important as well. CCAT, we're in our 18th year now. We've been around for a long time. We've got great resources, you know, to add to this. And I think our collaborations, particularly around workforce, you know, incumbent worker training, you know, you go in and do the needs assessment. Maybe there is something even that CCAT can do with one of our programs, because we've got a lot of funding, and that funding is available to the small companies. And you guys might go in and identify a need or something, and actually it might be able to be funded through a grant. So
yeah, great point.
Yeah, we got to make sure we're kind of all on that same page, and it's great, and we are, at least because we're here talking about it today, and that's just a great opportunity going forward for those small manufacturers. So, you know, looking forward to obviously all this great work going forward.
Likewise, thank you.